Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today I'm going over with you guys 5 modern masculine fragrances. This is a little bit of a follow-up on a video I did a few days ago, which was 5 classic masculine fragrances. That video featured mainly scents from the 80s, with 1 fragrance from the 70s in there as well. This video is gonna feature very popular releases from right around 2005 to 2015, give or take a year or two. I didn't want to do just a list of modern fragrances, as in fragrances that have come out in the past year or so. You know, whatever fragrances are currently being hyped, I didn't want to go that route. So instead I'm going with some of the bigger releases, showing how tastes have changed a little bit from the 70s and the 80s to more recent releases. And I guess when I say tastes have changed a little bit, I mean a lot. And you'll have to excuse this beanie. Essentially what's going on here is the same thing as when a girl ties her hair back and just says screw it. So got a lot to talk about today, guys, so let's jump into this and check out some very popular modern masculine scents. First up is a fragrance from 2007. This is from the house of Tom Ford. In my opinion, one of the 2 most important releases in the private blend line. This one right here, Tuscan Leather. Olibanum, woods, leather, saffron, and of course, raspberry. Some of the notes in this fragrance. This one, to me, really took the private blend line of Tom Ford to another level, just in terms of popularity, in terms of wearable fragrances that are at the same time maybe a little bit challenging in comparison to your more standard designer releases out there. This one obviously is a leather fragrance. It's right in the name, Tuscan Leather. As I mentioned, the raspberry note is what it's known for, that raspberry note and the leather kind of mixing together. Tuscan Leather is not the first fragrance that took leather in that sweeter direction, instead of going the alpha male direction with leather, you know, dirty or animalic or leather jacket. It's not the first one that deviated away from that 80s style of using leather as a note, but probably the first fragrance that would come to my mind if you asked, what is a fragrance that switched up how this note is used? It kind of set things in a new direction for a lot of people in terms of how to view what a leather fragrance is, what a leather fragrance can be, and for men, what a leather fragrance should be that you should be wearing, if that makes any sense. It took things a new direction and really blew up in doing so. And of course, the private blend line by Tom Ford, one of the more popular private lines from any designer house out there. I don't think that the private blend line has quite as many killers as they used to. Back in the day, anytime a new Tom Ford private blend line fragrance was dropping, people were like, oh man, I gotta get it, gotta get it, gotta get it. And that does still happen sometimes with fragrances like Lost Cherry. But it seems like more and more nowadays, when private blend line fragrances are coming out, people are kind of wishy-washy sometimes on them. But yeah, I just wanted to feature this one first as a modern masculine fragrance that changed things up a bit, Tuscan Leather. From there, let's go into a fragrance from 2014 and a fragrance from 2012. I'm putting these together and you'll know why as soon as I show you. It's Bulgari Man in Black and Viktor & Rolf Spice Bomb. So Man in Black came out in 2014. Spice Bomb came out in 2012. The reason I bring these up at the same time is because they have a pretty strong similarity between how they smell. Now, Spice Bomb was first, so Man in Black kind of did that thing where they see a fragrance that's really selling well, that's getting a lot of market share, and they go, can we get something a little bit like that maybe? You know, put a change here or there, but can we get a version of that? That would be great if we could do that. And that's what they did with this one right here, Bulgari Man in Black. Now between the two, Man in Black is going to be more affordable from discounters. Viktor & Rolf fragrances typically don't get discounted all that much. So if you're balling on a budget, this one's probably gonna be the way to go. It's got spices, rum, leather, and tonka in here, and Spice Bomb, of course, very well known for spices. Yes, you are correct. Cinnamon, tobacco, pink pepper, and leather, some of the notes in Spice Bomb. Obviously, the big thing that's gonna set these apart is gonna be the rum in Bulgari Man in Black, so it's got a little bit of booziness in here. Some people are going to like how Spice Bomb comes across a little bit stronger, a little bit more in your face, but Man in Black is also a great performing fragrance as well. Now, these fragrances really just concentrate heavily on the spices, but they do it in a way where it's very sweet, very appealing, and great for a night out. So as where a lot of those more old school masculine fragrances were hitting you with heavy notes of woods, leather, oak moss, or going a more fougere direction, maybe bringing in some star anise or lavender or things along that line, these fragrances here just hitting you with the spice. And these aren't going to be the last ones that feature spice heavily, but when Spice Bomb came out, it just told you right there what it is. It's a bomb of spice, Spice Bomb. I mean, it's shaped like a freaking grenade. They're not exactly going for subtlety here. But these fragrances work great. People love them. And even though they're just overwhelming with the amount of spice in there, like I said, extremely approachable, easy to wear, likable, compliment pulling, and the performance great as well. And again, kind of going back with Tuscan Leather, Spice Bomb, and especially Man in Black, since it's kind of following up on Spice Bomb, not the first fragrance to just go heavy, heavy, heavy with the spice and throw in tobacco, leather, and other supporting notes like that. But it did it better than almost any fragrance that came out before it, at least in terms of popularity and how well it was received. Next up, two fragrances, each one released in 2015. The first one I'm going to talk about is a flanker to the best-selling men's fragrance of all time, Acqua di Gio Profumo. C notes, incense, bergamot, patchouli, some of the notes in this fragrance. This one basically took that Acqua di Gio DNA that so many people have worn over the years, including myself, probably way more than I should have, and modernizes it a bit, darkens it up, adds incense, makes it even more versatile than the original because you can wear this one in fall or winter, but it's not so dense or heavy that you can't wear it in spring or summer. So it's one that you could wear year round if you wanted to. That makes this one a potential signature scent for lots and lots of guys out there. You can wear it during the day, you can wear it during night, wear it on a date, wear it to the office, wear it casually, wear it out with friends, whatever, it can do it. Now, Profumo is not the first flanker to come from Acqua di Gio, but it really is the first flanker that just blew up all over the place in the Acqua di Gio line. So for a lot of people out there, Profumo almost revived Acqua di Gio, made it more relevant again. Instead of people saying, oh, you're wearing Acqua di Gio that came out in '96, which at the time of this fragrance's release was 19 years prior. So people would say, geez, you're still wearing that? It's almost 2 decades old. There were other flankers, Acqua di Gio Essenza probably being the one that most people are going to know. There was also Acqua di Gio Life Edition. There was a Blue Edition. Those were both limited editions, a little bit more difficult to find nowadays, but those all came out before this one, but never really caught on heavily. Essenza did have kind of a cult following where people, a small amount of people, thought that it was awesome, fantastic, the best Acqua di Gio flanker. I have a bottle of it, I think it's nice. Some people did not like Essenza because they said it had a smell of rotten eggs in it, which is never great. If that's what you're getting from a fragrance, obviously you're probably not gonna like it. But this one got more universal acclaim, if you wanna call it that. Now, of course, people more hardcore into niche or indie fragrances, probably not into this quite so much, but as far as your average guy out there, your average purchaser of fragrance, loved it. And so when you have something like this coming out, Acqua di Gio Profumo, taking a very popular fragrance from decades past, modernizing it a little bit, releasing it and just having it explode, that's going to obviously influence other brands going forward. And as I said, really, really helped revive almost that Acqua di Gio name, which you're seeing now because they're putting out a flanker every single year. You can go back and look at Acqua di Gio from 1996 to 2015 and you'll see just a few flankers in there. And then from 2015 until now, 2020, basically the same amount of flankers that was released between 96 and 2015. Actually, maybe more flankers from 2015 to 2020, if that lets you know how popular that one was. And the other fragrance from 2015, Dior Sauvage, Eau de Toilette. Bergamot, lavender woods, ambroxan, of course, black pepper and Sichuan pepper, some of the notes in this fragrance. Now, we could have gone with Bleu de Chanel by Chanel because that really is at least to me, the fragrance that heavily kickstarted the blue fragrance boom, if you want to call it, that we are currently riding through. But Dior Sauvage really helped just push everything right over the edge. And you can take that multiple ways. You can take that as it pushed fragrances, men's fragrances, over the edge into what some people will say is mainstream trash, or for other people, pushed it over the edge into just fully embracing mass appeal and versatility, and of course, compliment factor. Because we all know Dior Sauvage has the compliment factor, am I right? Yeah. So this one has great performance. It projects very well off my skin, lasts a very long time. I actually did get into trouble a couple times wearing this into the office where I went maybe a little bit too heavy, and people may or may not have been picking me up from like 30 feet away, which may or may not be a problem in an office. Sometimes going a little bit lighter is the right move. So yeah, Dior Sauvage really helped kick all of this off, all of this blue fragrance madness, where you've got every single designer house coming out with their own blue fragrance. Again, just a clean, fresh, versatile, mass appealing, people pleasing, compliment pulling sort of scent profile is what we're talking about here. And most of the houses, assuming that they're a decently large designer house, have multiple blue fragrances at this point. Some of them have just flanker after flanker after flanker, doing one each year now. And Dior Sauvage really, I think, just kicked it into overdrive. So while Bleu de Chanel kind of laid the blueprint for what was to come, Dior Sauvage is the one that really built it and kicked it into overdrive. And that seems to happen with each decade. You know, you have certain fragrances that really set the tone for what the prototypical fragrance for that decade is going to smell like, or for that half of decade, or for however long it stays popular, that scent profile. So you can go back even to the 50s, and there are fragrances where you can kind of pinpoint them and be like, this one really set the tone. Same through the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and Dior Sauvage, certainly from 2015 until now, is an enormous influence on men's perfumery and men's fragrances today. It's not the only one, but it is an enormous one. And just like in the classic masculine video, I want to go over just a few fragrances very quickly before I wrap this one up with my official fifth fragrance. Fragrances that I think are important, but if I go over them all, it's just gonna run too long. Fragrances like Terre d'Hermès by Hermès, which I think personally is a fantastic fragrance, a great gentlemanly, sophisticated kind of fragrance with a little earthy, dirty touch in there as well. I said that weird dirty, but yeah, Terre d'Hermès, fantastic release. It is divisive though. Some people don't really go for that all that much. The orange in there can turn people off. The earthiness can turn people off. For me though, killer fragrance. Versace Pour Homme, which I think is a very, very nice, inoffensive fragrance that does not cost that much, especially for younger guys. Gonna be a great scent. I wore it a lot when I was younger. It's got a similarity to Chanel Allure Homme Sport, and I feel like that one is really solid as far as clean, inoffensive, modern men's scents go. And sticking with Versace, Eros. Eros, enormously popular, club type scent, very sweet, and again, better for younger guys typically. A fragrance that I've been wearing a lot lately, which is actually inspiring my upcoming rotation video, Narciso Rodriguez Eau de Toilette. That one has grown on me and I really, really, really like that one. Some people compare it to the smell of wet cement. So it's got an interesting kind of vibe going for it. And if you look at the bottle, the wet cement thing kind of makes sense just in terms of how the bottle itself looks. It's got a sweet violet note in there, and the sweetness just really works for me. It's not like a heavy-handed bubblegummy type sweetness. I really dig it. Dior Homme, another one that I think is enormously important. Kicked off the whole Dior Homme line, which is one that I personally love. Lipsticky iris, the cacao in there, the leather, just works together so well. Super sexy fragrance, and kind of got butchered and re-released as Dior Homme 2020. I understand what they're doing with Dior Homme 2020. The whole ISOE Super, like Dior Homme 2020 is to ISOE Super as Dior Sauvage is to Ambroxan, but the original is what I'm talking about here. And there are just countless others. I mean, Paco Rabanne Invictus. You smelled that DNA everywhere. in men's fragrances now. It's like everybody has to have a little piece of Invictus. But let's just wrap this up with the last fragrance officially, I guess, in this video. It is from Paco Rabanne, 1 million. Yeah. This one came out in 2008 and it has spawned many, 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 many flankers. Some better than others. 1 million Lucky, probably the one that gets talked about the most, especially here over the past couple years or so. 1 million Privé, I like a lot. That one's got a little tobacco touch to it. 1 million Intense, which is really not that easy to find anymore, which I actually liked more than the original, but it's neither here nor there, I guess. Cinnamon, leather, amber, rose, spices, citrus. In this fragrance, club fragrance. It's what this is known for. Heavy projection, big longevity, and it's gonna last you all night. It's gonna fill up a room. If you spray this on heavily, you go into a club trying to get attention, you know, hit yourself with 6, 7, 8 sprays of this, you'll get attention. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but you know, you do you. Now, I mentioned with Spice Bomb and Man in Black that they weren't the first fragrance, obviously, to go heavy with spice and, you know, sweeten it up a bit, make it very approachable. 1 million does that as well. This one, very sweet, spicy, and even though it's got notes in there like leather and rose, which maybe you would think, it's not hyper masculine note or whatever. It all works together very well as just an attention grabbing, compliment pulling kind of fragrance. It is not as versatile as a lot of the fragrances that I've talked about here today, but it is still just an enormous release. As far as designer fragrances go, if you were going to do like a top 10 most iconic fragrances, as far as designers go, and you were gonna say, I don't know, the past 25, 30 years, 1 million would be on there. It would be up there with fragrances like Acqua di Gio and Le Male and, you know, the who's who of designer releases. And this fragrance, along with some before it and many that came after it, that pushed everything into the direction of sweet fragrances. For a time, you had very masculine fragrances. Again, we're going back to 70s, 80s. And then through the 90s, you had a whole lot of clean fragrances, aquatic fragrances, things like that. And then as we head through the 2000s, it gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. Now you do have outliers, obviously. You're gonna have fragrances even coming out today that are very woody or very leathery, very smoky, very strong. Not everything is gonna be sweet. But a lot of these fragrances pushed everything in that direction, which is where you'll end up with so many designer releases coming out now that are just sweet on top of sweet on top of sweet. And that one's gonna wrap this video up. 1 million Paco Rabanne. All right guys, it's gonna do it for me here today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Thanks so much for all your support. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys. If I can get out of here. All right. All right. All right.